Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Sick Podcast. Today it's just me, Chris, but I do have my special guest, Paul, with me.
Hey, how you doing, Chris?
All right, and we're going to be talking about one of our mutual favorite games of all time, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. So we're just continuing our Double Trouble series where two people will just sit down and talk about whatever they happen to be talking about. Last time it was Sunny and Araz talking about Dark Souls, and today I thought that I would talk about one of my favorite games. We're essentially going to be recounting our favorite memories from each planet within this game. So essentially, you're an individual who has a task that you need to go from each planet to planet within the Star Wars universe, trying to collect these pieces of evidence or pieces to a puzzle that will lead you to the ultimate goal of reaching this thing called the Star Forge, which is essentially like a very old version of the Death Star. Mm-hmm. So Paul and I are going to be doing a full-blown series with this video game. We're going to be doing some gameplay footage, we're going to be doing builds and things like that. So you can definitely look forward to that in the future, but today we just wanted to talk about favorite memories and some key takeaways on a personal level that we have with this game. So yeah, just starting off at the beginning, kind of the prologue level, the Indar Spire.
Ooh, the Indar Spire. Bringing back some good memories of watching everyone around me die.
A true tragedy.
Chris, I believe you have something to say about the first 5 minutes of the game as a kid.
Oh, yeah. So, like, when I was a kid, so Paul and I were talking about this earlier. The game came out in 2003, and we were around 5 or 6 at the time, around 5 or 6 years old, and when I was that young, I was pretty dumb. Like, I couldn't even figure out how to equip any weapons or anything like that. I had to come back to it years later with a new kind of understanding of how a video game works in order for me to play the game. Although Paul did a much better job of this right off the bat.
Yep, I remember actually getting my equipment, equipping my short sword, going around murdering every Sith soldier I could find. Remember my buddy, your commanding officer, I forgot his name, starts with
Trask.
Trask? It was Trask.
Yep.
Trask following me, shooting people. He kind of sucked, but I liked him a lot at the time.
It was tragic because he did save your life, ultimately.
He did save my life. I owe him my life.
When your ship is being boarded by a Sith fleet, Trask kind of sacrifices himself, and that, I guess it kind of sets you on your path for the rest of the game, really. Once you meet your other companion, Cartho Nassi, on the Indar Spire, that is really kind of the starting exposition for the whole game, and that kind of leads us into what happens with Kars on the following planet, Terrace.
Terrace, as a kid, I actually hated Terrace, and I still have a deep resentment for Terrace.
Really? Why is that?
I mean, if you look at it from like a graphic point and like overall, like just look above in the sky, it looks like a beautiful city. Mm-hmm. Its design was beautiful at the time, and it was, but the reason I really hated Terrace is because, believe it or not, if you guys get into the game, there will be some racist-ass citizens. You'll meet some racist-ass citizens. Could not stand them. And then
yeah, that is true.
There was so many. As a kid, I wanted to help us. Like, as a kid with like a very linear sense of morality, I wanted to help everybody I saw. And pretty much, there were so many people who needed my help. I ended up murdering a lot of bounty hunters. No regret, though. But the reason I really hate it is because the whole racism. The prologue felt, well, technically it's not a prologue at that point, but like the planet felt just long to me. But basically it starts you off on your path, your morality and your starting equipment for later on.
It really gives you kind of a sense of how to play the game, a few key mechanics such as dialogue-based options. So if a character is interacting with you, you can choose from a list of different dialogue options similar to like the Fallout series, and that has a lasting impact for the entire rest of the game, really.
Every decision you actually make at any point in the game has a consequence, whether good or bad. Going back to why I really hated Terrace is because as a kid I had low persuasion skills. So every time I try to persuade someone to do something for me or try to get information, they just say no. And I was like,
he means in the game, there's an actual like skill called persuasion, and if you don't put points into that, you're not going to be doing a lot of talking.
You're not going to convince anyone to do anything you want. And as a kid, I did not understand that, so I hated it.
Yeah.
And there's so much because it's so early in the game. You need that persuasion points. You need it.
I actually almost never put points into persuasion back when I was playing, just because when you get to a certain point, you can get force affect mind and dominate mind, and so you can actually just bend their will to whatever you want. It works pretty well.
Anyway, I think one of my key memorable moments for Terrace is at one point you actually have to sneak into an enemy base, and guarding the base entrance is a Rancor. And even though what that is, it's a giant ass monster that will literally eat you in one gulp. Check Return of the Jedi if you don't know what a Rancor is still.
Yep.
Basically, as a kid, I was like, it's a giant monster. It's time to bust out a sword and murder that motherfucker. And I got eaten first 5 seconds.
You try again later, right?
I tried again multiple times. I didn't understand what went wrong. I'm like, why? I can't even lay a single hit on him first.
Yeah.
And then I just stopped playing for like a couple of years.
What you're supposed to do is plant some mines around it so that you can bait him in, and then once he comes over to you, it just gets wrecked. But of course, I had a similar experience. Like, I didn't really understand that either. I mean, obviously, I couldn't even figure out how to like equip a weapon at first, like when I was a kid, man. So yeah, I don't know. For me, I think that I think one of my favorite moments is when you first come into contact with Bastila. While you are playing as the main protagonist of the game, she is a strong counterpart to that, because every single plot point is strongly driven by her. And so when you first encounter her, she's been taken up by a slaving group or something like that, and she's being held as a prize for
A swoop race.
Like a swoop race, yeah. And so you eventually win the swoop race, get her in your party, and then you can start progressing through the story even further, which is great.
Am I the only person who... Well, I tried this as a kid, and I was really sad when I learned this, but when you first get Bastila, you actually also get her lightsaber. Mm-hmm. And as a kid, I'm like, forget Bastila. She doesn't need a lightsaber. She's a Jedi. She got the Force. I'll take that. Thank you. And it turns out you actually can't use a lightsaber at that point in the game. Your character physically cannot hold a lightsaber.
But
that was so sad.
When you do eventually leave Terrace, the next place you go to is Dantooine, and then you may start using that.
Yeah, at Dantooine, minor spoiler alert here, you actually have the option. I know it's optional. You actually say no to this, but you have the option to become a Jedi. Though I've seen some people actually deny it. It's
really
physically possible to actually say no, I don't want to be a Jedi. But that leads you to a really big disadvantage later in the game. So, fair warning. But in Dantooine, you have the option to become a Jedi, and when I got the opportunity to become a Jedi, I was so happy. I'm like, oh my god, my dream. I'm finally living it. I'm finally a Jedi. I get the Force. I get a lightsaber. I got the Force.
Yeah, I have never turned it down before. I didn't even know that you could turn it down.
You could.
That's crazy.
I won't see why anyone would, though, because you don't get a lightsaber, you don't get Force powers, and at that point in the game, you really want a lightsaber.
And the Force powers and the lightsabers, they're so hugely beneficial to everything, because you can upgrade the lightsaber, you can put in different crystals, which have an effect on like how much damage they do, and we'll touch on that all later in like a different video or something like that. But the Force powers themselves, I feel like they're really necessary if you want to have any chance of taking on the final guy, the final obstacle.
The final boss, yeah. You definitely need those Force powers. I don't see how anyone can actually beat the game without like being a Jedi.
I got a similar impression from that too. But what was your favorite kind of moment from Dantooine?
Actually, Dantooine was like Terrace. I really didn't like it. It was just so much like, so many side quests, so many of these freaking Cath hounds. If you don't Cath hounds, they're basically like these wolves, but there were so many of them, and I hated fighting them because I don't know. As a kid, I didn't choose soldier class. I picked scoundrel class, and they're we'll explain more in a later video, but they have like the worst ability in battle. They'll die. You'll die. Extremely
squishy. They don't really do a whole lot of damage output or anything.
Yeah, and Cath hounds have a huge amount of like dodge rate or something, and I could barely get a hit on them. So I hated fighting them. But I really liked the one of my favorite quests in that game is like you have to fight these Mandalorians.
Oh yeah.
And I actually liked it because you show like, well, first off, I felt like justified when I killed them because they were actually huge dicks. The game actually showed how big of a dick Mandalorians are in that game. Gosh. And I hated them, so I'm like, I'm gonna murder you, and I'm gonna avenge the people you murdered. And then eventually, I actually fight this. I forgot his name. I think he had a name though. But you fight this Mandalorian boss, and if you beat him, you actually get 2 free lightsabers from him.
Really? Oh, I think I have seen that. Yeah, one of them is red, right? Or is
Yeah,
it
one of
not?
them's red and one of them's blue, I
That's what I
believe.
thought. Yeah, I think I've only done that a few times. For me though, definitely one of the coolest parts of it is going into the crystal caves. When you go into the crystal caves, you can explore and pick up all kinds of different crystals that not only modify the color of your blade, but also the damage or different attributes of the blade that are useful in combat or some other capacity in the game. Some more useful than others, of course, but that was definitely just really cool to explore it because you see all the stalactites and stalagmites and everything like that just coming up out of the ground and ceiling, and it's just like really colorful and just cool to look at and explore. So that was definitely something interesting from that.
I do have a question for you, Chris, about the crystal cave.
Okay.
Did you break the eggs? The Kinrath eggs in there?
Always.
Yeah. No regret there.
Did you?
Always.
Of course, because there's crystals in there.
I know, but as a kid, I'm like, is it worth? I'm like, as a kid, I didn't know what the Kinrath. I was like, oh, I have the option of breaking it. I broke it. I'm like,
You felt bad.
I felt bad, and then I realized, oh, I get a lightsaber crystal out of it. Forget this, and Kinraths in that game are.
They're terrible
in the ass.
anyway. Yeah, they like try to kill you, so it's like you're kind of doing the next
you
guy a favor.
You gotta do the community a favor by killing those Kinraths.
I guess so. But essentially, like, Dantooine is... This is the part of the game where you have a lot more freedom in choosing where you would like to go next. So, you begin this quest of trying to assemble these pieces of evidence, these pieces of the puzzle that lead you to the Starforge, which is the end goal of the game, right? And so, there are a handful of planets you can choose from. You can go to Kashyyyk, you can go to Manan, you can go to Korban, and what's the last one?
Did we say Manan yet?
Yeah. Oh, Tatooine.
Yeah, Tatooine. That's it.
It should be those four. I believe that's it.
It's only those four.
So you have an option to pick one of each of those, and we'll just go into kind of our favorite moments from those as well. So I always went to Tatooine first.
I think I always went to. Yeah, I think I went to Tatooine always first too.
Yeah, I think that it was just easier for some reason. Not really sure why.
Definitely. Well, not at first, because when you first go into one of the maps, you're gonna get attacked a lot. Like.
Oh,
just
really?
random. Do you not remember when the Tusken Raiders just suddenly ambush you out of nowhere in that first map?
So I actually use that to my advantage because I used that as an opportunity to grind like experience points.
Yeah. Now I kept again. My character wasn't suited for combat, so I kept dying.
That's true.
I had to use
You have to use stealth.
No, I had to use my Karth and Canderous, companions of yours in the game.
Right.
Like I just put them on like they're my tanks.
Yeah.
So I'm just like just shoot from behind me while I distract them, please.
Yeah, exactly.
In Tatooine, my favorite moment in that entire planet is actually murdering all the Tusken Raiders.
A lot of murder,
Okay, wait,
Paul.
yeah.
A lot of murder coming out of you today.
So for the context of mine, so the Tusken Raiders in that game are kind of like they're a major plot point in the game. You actually have to decide what to do with them. And I actually went the peaceful route at first, and I made peace with them and everything. But then I got greedy, and I saw like these like wicker bins they held in their camp, and I'm like, why don't I touch it? So I wanted the stuff inside, so I touched it, and they instantly turned hostile because I was stealing their shit.
You're stealing. Yep.
Yeah, so they instantly turned hostile. I'm like, wait, and then I murdered everyone in the camp. And surprisingly, I felt really good. I don't know why.
Oh God, Paul. I'm losing hope in you. I thought you said that you had a linear morality, whatever that means. Oh boy.
But yeah, my favorite moment was definitely when I got to steal all their stuff and basically murder everyone in there. And then another moment though is definitely when you actually get to kill like a Kayat dragon, which is like
of
this
course.
huge ass lizard. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a giant lizard.
It's like I think it breathes fire, right? Does it?
I don't remember.
All I know is
that it's like the Rancor. If you actually get close to that thing, it instant kills you.
Yeah, you really have to be like specific in how you kill it. Like you have to bait it out.
Yeah, to bait it out, blow it up. It's actually a really good scene. Like one of my favorite scenes, like cutscene wise, in the game. And I actually I loved every minute of the scene. And then you actually get to examine the corpse afterwards. And if you actually kill the
if you bash it,
bash it. If you bash the corpse, you actually get like a special lightsaber crystal out of it.
And that's really powerful. It's great for wherever you are in the game. And that actually could be a great incentive just to start there in general, because you are getting that crystal. Because it's pretty, I don't know, it's pretty great for starting out, I think. I can't really remember what it does off the top of my head. But
Neither can I, but I know if you don't use it though, it sells for a pretty good amount of credits.
And that's always good too, because there seems to be like a lack of it usually, especially early game. Let's see.
I was broke.
I kind of also liked like messing up the Tusken Raiders, but it was for a different reason. Like, I believe that if you collect their gaffy sticks, which is the weapon that they use,
Yeah.
you can bring it to the what is it, the exchange or something like that.
Like a greedy corporation. That's all I remember.
Yeah, some kind of, or maybe it was Circa or something like that.
It was
Some
Circa,
kind-
it was
yes,
Circa.
like a Circa corporation, which is like just like an in-game corporation. Not a huge impact on the storyline or anything, but if you bring those and turn them in, you get a pretty decent amount of credits for each one, which is pretty great. Let's see. As far as favorite moments go, I would also have to go with the Kyrat Dragon. Like, that thing is just like a ton of fun to kill. And then before that, you face Calo Nord, who is a bounty hunter trying to kill you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So fair warning about Calo Nord, was it? I can't remember his name. All I know is he's bounty hunter.
Yep.
Fair warning about Calo Nord. So depending what planet you start out with, Calo Nord will always spawn there, like on your first planet. He'll always spawn
Oh,
there.
but that's
So,
right.
We just happen to have Tatooine
yeah.
as our first planet.
That's true.
But fair warning to all those players out there, no matter what planet you go to for the first one, Calo Nord will always spawn in.
And the third one, it will always be Darth Bandon, and we'll
Yeah.
get to him later. But yeah, that's pretty much Tatooine, though. Let's see. Where do you usually go next?
I personally went to Kashyyyk afterwards.
Same here.
Dang, but Chris, we got like a same mind like here.
Yeah.
But Kashyyyk, so if you don't know what Kashyyyk is, Kashyyyk is basically, if you watch the original Star Wars movie, it's the home planet of Chewbacca. And it's basically this giant forest planet. And basically the whole point of that game is, again, to get the map of, a fragment of the map for the Starforge.
Uh-huh.
And personally, my favorite moment in that one was actually, so a little, again, spoiler warning, was when you get to help your buddy Zalbar, a Wookiee companion of yours. He's a really big point in that game.
Yeah.
In that part of the game. So, and eventually you have to pick a side. Either you side with Zalbar's dad or Zalbar's brother. And I won't tell you which one's the good or, morally right decision, but I always sided with the dad. And it was always so much fun actually, like, watching their family dispute for some reason. It was like, like in a good way. So like
Family Feud. Steve Harvey is there.
yeah, Steve Harvey's there. Yeah. He's like so frustrated with all three of them. But it was actually fun taking a side and like listening to each side of the story, and I really like that part of the game.
That is
Or part of
cool.
the map,
Like,
planet.
it is a lot of fun dealing with because of the position of Zalbar's family. Zalbar's dad and brother are kind of feuding over the role of like the chieftain, and so it's kind of like watching a family feud over like a political power and things like that. And so you're kind of serving as like a mediator to some degree, although ultimately ends in one of them dying.
Yeah, no, and you have to pick one side. There's no
Yeah.
middle. There's no middle ground.
So that is it's not necessarily a tough decision. Like, the decisions in this game are not very nuanced. They're pretty black and white in terms of like how to interpret them from a moral standpoint. But yeah, like that's pretty much Kashyyyk in a nutshell. It's a ton of fun to just explain or just explore. What's it called? Like when you go
I think it's
down,
called the Shadowlands.
yeah, the Shadowlands. You essentially start Kashyyyk up in the treetops, so everything is a treehouse, which is like a ton of fun. It's like a really cool place to explore. But then once you go into the Shadowlands, which is just the floor and everything, it's a pretty creepy place, and it's just a lot of fun to look through.
Oh yeah, I think the scenery there actually captures the actual name Shadowland. It's really
Perfectly.
dark, and the creatures there are extremely violent. Like they're actually really hard to kill, some of them. But there you actually, when you meet one of my favorite character, and one of my favorite characters in that game, you can beat Jolie Bindo.
Yep, yeah.
And I love Jolie. He's just basically this old,
Crotchety man.
yes, crouchy man who doesn't claim to be a Jedi, but he has like lightsaber and everything. So it's like he's technically a Jedi.
Yeah, he's kind of living off the grid.
Yeah, but he is hilarious because he's always making old jokes, and they're like really funny old jokes to me. I love Jolie. He's one of my favorite characters the whole time.
I'm too old for this shit.
Oh, I think I've gone senile, have you? Wait, what were we talking about again? That's actually one of his, like, close to his actual line in the game. If you actually say hi to him and then you say, I'm leaving now, he actually says, oh, you think you're messing with the old man. I think I've gone senile. And then he just really forgets what he's talking about.
Yeah, he's a great character. He's like HK-47 too.
I love HK-47.
Some really great characters in this game, and we're probably gonna dive deep into what makes him unique and special in like a later video. But yeah, we'll definitely get to that when we get to it.
Yeah. So after Kashyyyk, where did you go after Kashyyyk?
Because
there's only 2 more planets.
Manan.
You went to Manan?
I believe I went to Manan.
I ought to also went to Manan.
Really?
Yeah,
I always say Korriban for last because
Yeah,
I found it the hardest.
Really, I just like Korriban. Korriban's like my favorite one. I'll get to that later. But I always like Korriban to be last because it's sort of like, at that point, like,
It feels like the pinnacle. It feels like the very top of the challenge.
yeah, definitely. So,
But also story too.
So Manan is basically this like ocean planet, and basically, again, there's a map of the Starforge there, or a piece of it, and basically you got to go actually. So when you land, you're actually on like a city above the surface, and
Octo City.
and then you actually have to dive down. There we go, dive down deeper into the ocean to find the map, because the map is on the ocean floor.
Right. So yeah, the city is essentially like floating atop this water surface, and then you eventually find yourself right at the bottom and the depths of the ocean planet at this underground, or not underground, but underwater facility. Mm-hmm. And that's essentially where your launch point is to figure it out.
As a kid, I think the actual like going down to the bottom of the surface was really scary, because down there you meet some pretty scary, freaky stuff down there.
Yeah. So the native species to Manan is called Selkath, and so a few of them, along with either the Sith or the Republic that have a base down there, have gone insane. They've been left down there so long, and something tragic occurs that it has such an impact on their psyches, and there's insane Selkath running around, and while they're an otherwise peaceful kind of race, very lawful and things like that,
Yeah.
they've gone completely insane and they attack you, and it's always a difficult thing to kind of go through because you don't necessarily want to kill them, but they're so hell-bent on killing you that you just don't have a choice but to defend
Honestly,
yourself.
you're probably doing them a mercy by killing them at that point. They've gone. Literally, the enemy name is Insane Selkath.
Yep.
Like, you're doing them a mercy at that point by killing them.
It's so dark, especially when you're going through under that base and you find the holograms of the Republic people that are talking with each other. They're having a conversation about what is actually occurring underneath the water, and then you kind of get some insight into what's driving these Selkath insane.
It's basically it's like a miniature horror story in that part of the game, because you don't know what's going on. Everyone around you, there's either a corpse or an insane Selkath, and you're pretty much left all alone except with your 2 companions. Or you can go solo. Don't recommend that though, because that'd make the game way creepier.
It'd be a little tough, and you're forced to go solo anyway when you're actually going out into the water. You can't have your companions with you there.
Yeah, but definitely,
which is a little tricky.
Definitely one of my favorite parts is actually going down there, but also one of my scariest parts. But then my favorite part of that actually was actually the is actually Jolie's personal side quest. So in the game, at one point when you're talking to your companions, you can get their personal side quest, and Jolie's personal side quest is with his old friend. I forgot his name. Basically, you have to do like a trial. You're basically a lawyer, an investigator, and you either help prove or disprove this man's innocence. And it was one of my favorite things, because like as a kid, I did not get what actually happened.
Right.
And then as I got older, I'm like, oh, that's what really happened.
That's an insanely fun part, and I absolutely love how this game uses a kind of judicial themes throughout. So what I mean by that is, not only is there something where you're standing trial in Manan, you can actually do this as well in Dantooine. So this is something Paul's giving me a look like, what? You can do that? So when you're on Dantooine, one of the things that you can do, this could be from the second game actually, I'm not sure, is there is a murder that occurs.
Oh, it's the first one. Yeah, I know you're talking
That's
about
the first one?
Yeah, it's the first one.
So there's a murder that occurs. The details are not that important, but you are the one that has to figure out who did it, who committed the murder. And I'm obviously not going to spoil anything, but when you get to the bottom of it and you figure out the true answer, it's super fascinating. It's extremely interesting to like watch unfold. And as you're looking for the clues, you're investigating, you're interrogating. It's so much fun to just like put the pieces together yourself and figure it out. And that's much like what you would have to do on Manan as well for the side quest.
Actually, quick question, Chris. Did you actually get the right answer for the Dantooine one? As a kid?
Don't believe that I got it right the first time.
Yeah,
I think that I got it right a second time that I attempted it, with further exploration and evidence and things like that. But it's I don't want to say too much because I don't
Yeah.
want to spoil it, but when you figure it out and
Yeah, my
you
mind
have
was
that
blown
revelation.
actually when I figured out what actually happened. So.
Same. It was just really good. Like the way that they did it was fantastic.
And then after Manon, I don't think I have any more moments to share with Manon at the moment without going into spoiler territory. So
Yeah.
I'm done with Manon. Are you, Chris?
Yeah, I think so too.
All right. And after that, there's actually
Korriban.
I was actually saying that little
Oh, the Leviathan.
the Leviathan. Basically, that is at this point in the game, you kind of attract the attention of the Sith, and they kind of attack you.
Right.
And without going to major spoilers, you actually have to fight through this entire Sith ship with pre-assigned companions, Bastila and Karth, and basically you discover more about the game, basically, or like the lore.
You get some major plot points that go
Yeah, that's
through,
it.
and you learn more about yourself and your mission and things like that. And it is really it's a lot of fun to do that, but like when you're being intercepted by the ship, it's it's kind of frustrating.
It is really frustrating, but a reason I mean that's because I actually enjoyed every moment being in that shit. It felt tense. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's a soldiers around the corner,
The stakes are really high.
and you get like really good equipment there.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, and basically the whole ship was just this awesome experience for me, even now as an adult, and even more as a kid. And now after that, you actually have to go to your final planet, whichever that one you, the player, would choose. Me and Chris
It would be
chose
Korriban. Yeah.
And Korriban was definitely my favorite planet out of all of them.
I want to say I agree with you, I think, just because there's so much lore, and then the actual thing that you have to do on the planet is so fun.
Yeah, I find pretty much every side quest in there really, really fun. And I'm just trying to think of my favorite moment right now without going to spoilers, but basically you're actually tempted a lot though to go to the dark side there. If you're like a light side, like my character's light side attuned, and basically it was really hard for me to make a lot of those decisions. And because a lot of decisions actually they want to drive you towards the dark side because you're basically in a Sith academy. They
Right.
want you to turn you into a Sith.
So the whole entire like setting and the main premise of this planet is that you land on the planet and there is a Sith academy, and you just happen to need to get through the academy in some loose sense, I guess, in order to hit your objective. Without going into too much details, too much spoilers or anything.
Yeah, Korriban's a whole spoiler territory thing, if you ask me. But
Yeah.
it's so much fun doing those side quests. And basically, like this whole moral debate with what should I do if I let that kind of stuff. And definitely one of my favorites. Definitely, you get actually one of my favorite items in the game without. I mean, a spoiler. Favorite items in the game is like at the end of the planet, you actually get this really unique lightsaber called a Sith lightsaber. You can't upgrade it or anything, but it's really cool to me because it's well, first it's a lightsaber. Lightsabers are awesome to me. For, if you want to know something about me, but if you actually look at the description on the actual game, it's like it's a lightsaber, but it's designed very specifically, and it's like really cool to me as a kid and lore wise because it looked like a normal lightsaber in the game, but if you actually read it, it's more than just a simple lightsaber.
Right. So, I also had a favorite item of mine in the entire game. It wasn't the same one, but you actually come to this kind of decision towards the end of it where you need to pick between. I can't remember the names of it, but one of them is like extremely hot, like fire grenade, and one of them is like extremely cold ice grenade. And you have to pick the right one. There is a right answer for the task at hand, right? There's essentially a pool of acid that you need to cross, and you can either burn it up or freeze it. Obviously, you gotta pick the right one, or it won't work, and one of them will kill you. One of them will allow you to cross carefully. But I do love those items a lot. Like they're super cool, and there's like I just thought the idea was clever.
I agree with you. The idea was super clever. I never personally picked the wrong option. I don't know what happened.
I definitely picked it once just to see, just out of curiosity.
Oh, is it definitely an instant death?
Oh yeah, it's definitely an instant death.
All right, good to know. Good to know.
Yeah. But that is a great one. Like another really cool thing about Korriban is that you can explore the tombs of really prolific Sith figures throughout history. So the tomb of Nagasato, you can pick up a poisoned blade and just explore that tomb. There's just a lot of different tidbits of Sith history here and there that you can pick up on, which is pretty interesting if you're interested in lore.
I definitely agree with Chris on that. And each tomb actually has a specific item to that Sith Lord. I won't spoil it in case anyone wants to know, but basically each item, or basically each tomb has a specific item for that Sith Lord, and it's really cool because the Sith Lord, or the item's named after the Sith Lord, and
Right.
has unique properties that you can't find anywhere else in the game.
Right, yeah. And some of them are just extremely powerful.
Oh yeah.
So it is a lot of fun to just explore and figure out what you can do with it. And we did mention this before. I believe that if you choose Korriban as your last planet, you have an encounter with Darth Bandon.
Oh no, it's third planet. It doesn't
planet.
matter.
So it goes Darth Bandon, and then you get to the Leviathan?
Yes.
Gotcha. So, alright, so this would have been after Manan then. So you have an encounter with this Dark Jedi named Darth Bandon, who has kind of been on your tail since around...
Endar Spire, actually.
Endar Spire? Oh, that's right.
Because, actually, I'm not sure if this is a spoiler, because you actually have this as a dialogue option.
Well, just the prologue, too. So it's probably okay.
Yeah. Basically, the Darth Bandon is basically the guy who murders Trask, your commanding officer, when he sacrifices himself to save you.
Right.
And my favorite option the entire conversation with Darth Bandon is, you're the one who killed Trask. I'll murder you. Or you basically avenge. You can
You have
say
to avenge him.
You can avenge. You can say I'll avenge him for avenge him and stuff.
Right, and
I
it's
always pick
extremely kind of gratifying.
Oh yeah, I felt so good after
Yeah,
Darth Bandon.
it's kind of a good moment, for what it is.
Definitely fighting Darth Bandon is one of my favorite moments. Throughout the entire game.
It's one of the
because
hardest for me.
It gave me a lot of trouble because, again, my class isn't suited for combat, so I usually always died without any preparation.
Yeah.
But it's super hard fight because you fight not only Darth Bandon, who's already powerful enough, but you fight his two companions he brought along.
Right.
And
yeah.
it's
Two other
a tough
Sith.
fight.
So
But
that one is tough.
definitely one of my favorite moments in the game, and one of the most rewarding moments in the game, because you get, not only do you get the satisfaction of killing him, but you get really you get a double blade lightsaber from him, and you get a unique armor just for him. So I really like the whole fight.
So once you've wrapped up all 4 of the planets and the Leviathan, you get to go explore the unknown world, I believe.
Oh yeah, the unknown world. The unknown world, I don't know its name to this day. I don't think you're supposed to know its name ever.
It's just known as the unknown planet, I believe. I don't know if there is an actual canon name for it. Maybe in the
I'm sure there is.
what are they called? The Rakatan people?
I think it's Rakatan. I think it's pronounced
I
Rakatan.
believe it's around something like that. But your crew of people eventually land on this unknown planet. It crash lands, I think.
Yeah.
Whilst looking for the Star Forge after you have all the pieces assembled, and you're essentially just figuring out a way to get back up into the sky so you can find the Star Forge again.
And in that part of the game, you actually have, again, there's actually a really big decision. You decide with basically the which Rakatan tribe you're siding with. You basically decide with the Elders or the One. I believe his name was the One.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and basically you have to decide between the two. I personally always stick with the Elders. I never went the One route.
Right, yeah. And again, the choices are very black and white in how you're supposed to interpret them in terms of their effect on light side, dark side, things like that. There's another huge decision that happens as well after that.
Oh yeah,
Which that's a huge spoiler, huge plot point, so we're not going to touch on it too much, but it is something extremely the impacts that it has on the rest of the game, even though there's not that much, are huge. Huge ramifications for it.
But definitely, there's something I do want to mention about the unknown world is that there are actually wild rancors in this game, in this part of the world.
Yeah.
Where previously in Terrace, you actually couldn't, if you try to fight the rancor in Terrace, you'll die straight up. It's no way to win. But unless you use the baiting trap, which you
Right.
have to. But in this unknown world, you actually have to fight a rancor, multiple rancors, just
Using swords,
using whatever you have on you. You just
Yeah.
you physically have to fight them, and you actually you stand a chance this time.
That is a lot of fun. Probably my favorite part is just going through. There's this temple that you have to figure out how to open up and then go through it, and there's a lot of major plot points in there, so we can't touch on it too much. But there's when you're actually going through that, you really feel like the game is coming to. It's approaching that climactic moment, and there's huge developments in what's going on, and it just makes it that much more impactful.
Oh, definitely. Actually, I did want to mention this too. At one point in the temple, it's not a spoiler, so we're good, but there's actually a puzzle in the temple. In order to actually proceed further into the temple, you need to figure out this floor puzzle. And Chris, you remember it by any chance?
I do, yeah. I believe it's sun and moon on the floor.
I was actually talking about the one where it's sun and moon.
It's it's on the floor, right?
It's on the ground floor of the actual map, and it's
Yeah.
like it's a 9 grid square.
Right.
And basically, you have to make all the colors one color, or all the squares one color.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And I think it's like for the one you touch doesn't turn, but the ones around it do turn. I don't remember quite the specifics, but as a kid, even now actually, because I don't remember a lot of the entire like way to do it, but I struggled a lot with that because I was like, oh my god, for every one I touch, another one just changes a different color, and it was frustrating to me.
I know, it's super annoying. When you do figure it out, though, it is pretty gratifying. But that's pretty much all there is to say about Unknown World, Unknown Planet, without giving away too much of the story. But this pretty much brings us to the
final stage
moment,
of the
yep.
game.
The Starforge.
Yep. And you actually have to go to the Starforge. You cannot go to any of the planets you wanted to go to before. You're stuck.
Right.
If you have any remaining side quests, they're going to remain unfinished.
Yep.
Like, you are straight on going to the Starforge.
Yep.
And there's a lot of spoiler, because it is the final dungeon. There are a lot of spoiler points in it, so we unfortunately can't go too much into detail.
Yeah, you can go over, I guess, just some of the cool combat stuff that happens leading up to the final.
That combat, or the whole map in general, you are basically going to fight everything the Sith are going to throw at you.
Yeah,
you're fighting Sith,
Dark Jedi,
droids,
Jedi Masters.
You're going to fight literally anything you fought in the game before. You're pretty much going to face like a tougher version of that.
Yeah,
and it's actually super hard.
It's a lot of fun. It's really challenging, and I believe that you can actually get some special armor.
You can. It's only specifically for your character only, actually. And
the Starforge robes, right?
Yeah, Starforge robes. And actually, the look of the robes actually depend on which alignment you actually are.
Oh, I see.
So if you're dark-sided, you actually get like this really cool, badass like robe-looking one. And if you get the light-sided one, you get this lamer version. I never liked light-sided robes. Never
see.
I was like the dark side robes, but I was always light side. So
just
always
the aesthetics.
Yeah, the look. I personally for the dark side. But in terms of like I always pick light side.
We can't really talk about it too much, but the boss fight itself is one of the hardest things that I've ever done, like in my entire like gaming history, pretty much. I don't necessarily know if that's because I beat this game when I was young, or the very first time I beat it though, I've never had such a moment of satisfaction. I got so exhilarated, man. Like I was so happy when I beat that guy.
So as a kid, I don't know how. I don't remember how I did it. As a kid, I just went straight in, fought him, and I won.
Really?
As an adult, I can no longer do that.
Really?
No, I'm ashamed to admit this. I really am. But every time I do that boss fight, every time he's like getting close to kill me, I just run. I straight up run. I use like my fastest abilities in the game. I just run.
Yeah.
I run away, heal, run away, heal, run away, heal.
I do the same thing.
And as a kid, I didn't bother. Like I didn't even bother healing. I just went straight up, attacked him, and I beat him. But as an adult, I can no longer do that. For some reason, if I do that, I die.
I tried for a few days in a row to try and beat that dude for the very first time, and I was probably in elementary school still, so still pretty young, a little younger than 12 maybe. But wow, like I don't think to this day there's ever been anything in a RPG anyway that has been that difficult. That has been actually. There could be. Maybe Persona 5 has had some really difficult moments, but not nearly as hard as that.
Oh, no. I feel like this boss, because, like, this thing of Persona is, like, you don't actually, like, you just gotta use your moves.
Yeah.
And KOTOR, you have the option of, like, free moving. Mm-hmm. You can physically move your body outside, like, anywhere.
Right.
So you can't do that in Persona in combat.
So the thing about KOTOR, which we'll definitely touch on later once we do, like, mechanics and things like that, it is a turn-based game. But it's real time, so you can move around and you still have free mobility. You can cancel your combat. It doesn't mean that he's not going to come chasing after you, because he definitely will.
I was so scared. I was like, finally got some distance, and then he uses I won't go into much detail because we're gonna go into a different video for that. But he uses his ability called Force Jump, and basically, if you I think it's like 15 meters away from each other, he'll just straight up eliminate that distance. Yeah, he'll just straight up eliminate that distance, surprise attack you. And as a kid, that actually instant killed me every time.
And he has an astounding amount of health.
I would say his damage output's way
his
crazy.
His damage is insane. It's actually like, looking back on it now, it's incredible how difficult it was. So if you have if you have like an itch to play a game with a great story, but also challenges you every single step of the way, this is it for you.
Oh yeah, this is it for you. I remember, I just want to say this guy's damage output one time to me was 100, and that was one out of his 3 attacks.
What was your HP, just for perspective?
I was like 250, man.
So it
Easy.
did about, maybe like almost half of your entire health in one hit.
Yep, and I just ran. I was like, damn, I'm gonna die.
And it's not like he's only doing like one attack per few seconds or something. He really hits you a lot.
I think it's actually much faster than your character. If your character doesn't have any preparation,
he like barrages you. Yeah.
It's a tough boss fight, but it's rewarding when you beat him.
Absolutely.
And
because it's so hard, it's very rewarding.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that makes it so climactic is that not only is this the final boss, you're going to decide the fate of the galaxy and stuff like that, but the music always gives me chills. I'm like, dang, I feel like I'm the main, I know I'm the main character, but now I feel like I'm like the most important character of all time. Forget Luke, forget Anakin, forget the Chosen One shit. I am the Chosen One.
Exactly. So we definitely have some great memories of this game. We cannot wait to get started on this gameplay series where we're gonna just be going in on some walkthrough stuff, maybe some playthroughs and things like that. We're also going to be putting out some guides on how to build a really effective character, how to make your character extremely powerful so you don't have the same exact roadblocks that we have, and just a lot of other things coming down the pipeline to look forward to. And we're extremely excited to be moving forward with it, and we hope that you guys can join us along for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess that's pretty much it for today. Paul, thank you so much for coming on and talking with me.
Thanks for having me on board, man.
And we'll look forward to seeing you guys in the future. Peace.